Hello there, this is Carlos here at Warlord Games on YouTube, and thank you very much for tuning in to another video. Today we're going to be looking at, as promised, a quick painting guide to a Junkers Ju-88 bomber for Blood Red Skies, for the excellent Blood Red Skies from Warlord Games. The more I play it, the more I'm falling in love with it. I was actually speaking to a chap at my local independent store who was doing some demos for various games of Warlord, and I'm just so excited about what's to come. Little bit of a spoiler alert, we're going to be spoiler alert, is that the right thing? Well, I suppose well, a little bit of an upcoming tidbit I was given. There's going to be an expansion planned for the future that covers, I understand, ground attacking targets on the ground. So hopefully, you know, we'll see a bit bombers come into the game a little bit more with that, but I don't know too many details right now. So here we are. This is the Ju-88. This is the one you saw last time. Obviously, it's been undercoated. On the top, I've given it a spray of olive drab, the Tamiya spray, which is pretty much identical to Castle and Green from the Citadel paint range. I'll mainly be using Citadel colours for this. In fact, I will be entirely using Citadel colours for this, as that's my favourite brand of paint. So on top there, you've got that as the spray, which I do all my Imperial Guard and any kind of military green colour with, and underneath I've given it a quick spray with Chaos Black. Now, doing the other two planes in preparation for the video, I think I probably would have been better doing the undercoat underneath with maybe a grey or maybe even a white. Might have been better, but I didn't have any of them to hand because the colours I barely use nowadays. So, but yeah, for next time, and anyone else out there, that's what you want to be using. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to move on to the painting, the first part, which in this case will be the cockpit, the canopy. So we'll be doing the glass. So first things first, I'm not a particularly neat painter. I think if with regards to things like this, we've got the framework on the canopy. I'm literally going to paint this all the base colour of the glass, which in this case is rust grey, and then I'll afterwards I'll get the detail brush and go over those. I'll find that considerably easier than trying to get inside the little detail bits. Okay, so I'm just going to basically give this a bit of a watered down base coat of rust grey, and I'm going to try my best not to get it all over everything, but I'm just going to give this a go to start with. So yeah. Okay, so I was going to go with two light coats, but I think I might get away with one, as I am going to be applying a shade to this afterwards. So, and then another layer of it over the top of that, so I might just get away with one. Okay, so that's done. We've got the top and front canopies completed, so now I'm going to move on to the next colour, which will be actually a shade of Bartone green. So I'll give that a good shake first of all. Just clean my brush. I'm not licking the nib of it at all. That's a disgusting habit. And not at all the best way to get a perfect tip on the end of your brush. So I am actually using the same brush for everything. I really don't see, personally I don't see too many benefits to using all manner of different brushes. I want to be somewhat careful with this. I want to try and avoid making as much mess as possible. And yeah, I don't see the benefit of using too many types of brushes. This is a Citadel standard, and that's pretty much good enough for me for everything I'm doing, certainly with the smaller models, certainly at this scale. So I'll just keep a good supply of these to hand, and when they get a bit older they can start being my brushes for such work as washing. But again, with this I want to be fairly neat and tidy, so I'm trying to use a good brush. So it appears to me that the wash is now dried, so I'm now going to apply another layer of rust grey. However, I'm going to try and get as much of this off as possible. Almost similar technique to dry brushing, but not a dry brush because I do want some paint on there. And I'm just going to try and get it in between the actual windows as best I can. But due to the fact that I've dried a lot of it off, so a finger in the way there. Not this is the first time I've ever painted in front of a camera. You may or may not notice. So yeah, I'm just going to try and get it in between the frames as best I can, which should be okay, having taken a lot of the paint off the actual brush. A little bit more on there. Okay, dabbing that in there. And obviously on these back areas where you have the turrets, the rear facing turrets. Kind of quite like that, 2 machine guns. I take it that's so they fire either side of the tail fin. I mean, whether or not that's true, I don't know. But yeah, it's always one of those things when you're in the heat of battle. I mean, I can imagine I'll do the older Henry Jones and just shoot the tail of my own plane to shoot it to pieces, because I do get excited at the best of times. So I should imagine if I'm being chased by 2 enemy aircraft, yes, I'd well be the one who'd do that. Unless I'm in the Ju-88, because it would appear they've done the sensible thing and taken precautions. So say what you will about the Germans, obviously very efficient. Right then, that looks good enough to me. Right then, next up are the window tints, reflections. Okay, the lighter bit of the window, and for this I'm using Spacewalls Grey, so it's Ephemeris Grey. It's from these edge highlights. You don't really need to update them as often. For this I've got a very thin brush, and I'm literally just going along the edge of the window, just try and get a little bit on each one. Just a little bit of a highlight on each window. Obviously this is a bit scruffy. I'm getting a lot across the actual the frames, but we'll paint all that over in a minute. Okay, I'm not going to make you sit through this, so I'll fast forward to the next bit. Shame I can't. Right, so I've managed to give a few flicks of that across the glass just to add a bit of a highlight to it. Now I'm going to be covering the whole area in gloss varnish. Do this just so it stands out as being glass, and that's it really. Obviously some of those areas you'll notice are a bit brighter, but those are the areas that are going to be coloured over when I do the frames, which will be afterwards. Okay, so there is the glass completed with the reflections and the varnish done. So I will be doing the framework later on when I do the final details at the end with a fine detail brush. And now I'm going to use some watered down Castellan green to make sure it's in all the areas where the base coat needs to be. I found with the spray it wasn't getting in between the where the wing meets the body particularly well, and I'll need to do a bit around where I've overdone it with the glass, so let's work on that now. Okay, so I've got a good layer of green on all over that. Just the final bit left on this wing, on this this tail, and got that all round, so I'm happy with that. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, so everything that needs to be green is green, so a bit messy on the underneath, but it's not particularly important. I just wanted to get it done quickly. Right then, and we've gone all around the glass on the windows. Lovely. Right, so next up, I'm going to stop camouflage. For that, I'm going to be using Deathworld Forest. As I say, this scheme is based on on one I originally did as either an Airfix or a Revell kit. and I've been using some pictures of those as reference. I'm now using a picture of my two completed JU88s as reference. Alright, and so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use the brush to paint this this on. Now obviously you can use sellotape to sort of mark the areas off, or other similar materials. However, when I was doing that on my Messerschmitts, I did find that was kind of a bit more trouble than it was worth. Just with having to get it on, remove it, very fiddly, very small bits of sellotape will pretty much be the same with this. And obviously for me, this is very much tabletop standard I'm going for, not anything particularly. Also, I'm trying to put the best effort I can in. However, I'm mainly trying to get it to look good on tabletop, being played with, not going too crazy on the detail necessarily. So I'm just going to make a start on this first bit of camouflage, and when I'm finished we'll have a look at the sort of scheme as a whole. So if I go just down here, start off with as straight as I can get it, down onto what I assume are the flaps or something similar. So that takes me to about there. Probably I may end up with just having to go over it again with the green, but that's good enough for me. Using the little antenna here as sort of point of reference. Yeah, that's the one problem, is trying to neaten it up as best I can, but I can always come back to that momentarily once it's all done, even if I have to paint a bit more Castellan green over the top of it. Alright then, I'll obviously neaten these up as I go along as well, but that's the start of the camouflage. Okay, so that's the last little bit of that on there. I haven't tried to get the worried about getting it too consistent, as we'll be giving this a wash and a second coat. So next up we have the yellow areas on the tail and front of the engines, and for that I'm going to be using Avalanche Sunset. I like that because it's a nice dark sort of almost dirty looking yellow. So we'll be doing the same as the others. We'll be applying a layer, doing a wash, or a number of layers before the wash of course, with this being yellow, and then or a shade should I say. We'll be applying a shade and then followed by a second coat and finally a little highlight. So I'm not going to water down this too much because I do need it to be fairly thick. I'm just going to apply that to the areas, so starting with the wings, or the tail wings on the flaps. Trying to apply a fairly neat amount to that. That'll be both on top and underneath. You can see this is very streaky. That's going to happen using a light colour on top of a darker one. I know some people do prefer to use a light colour such as a Screaming Skull, and then followed by a number of washes over the top of that just to get the yellow out. Sorry, not washes, I mean glazes over the top of that just to get that out, but that's not really something I'm so au fait with, so I'm going to do it the way I know, just a couple of very light coats, and then I'll be doing my wash and doing my wash and my shade and my highlights from there. So there we have the so far completed bit. So that's the camouflage all done, added to the top and sides. A little extra bit there, I'll get that off the second coat, and the yellow bits as well come right underneath. So that was a couple of normal coats, and then just a very watered down coat just to make sure the colour balanced out. Right then, so next up we're going to use a bit of everyone's favourite Agrax Earth Shade, formerly known as Devil in Mud. That was the name it had when it first came into my life, and changed it forever. From a painting point of view, I'm not that sad. At least I hope I'm not. And now we are going to be using this with a bit of water. Add that to the palette, and I'm going to cover all the areas we've just done, obviously not including the glass. Going to try and do this fairly quick and in a sort of motion along here, because of course that's the where much of the wear will be coming from as it flies through the air. This has gone onto here quite thick, so I'm going to use some of this on other parts as well, not just on here. I'll try and use as much of the excess from here as I can. That's quite nice. That's building up right where I sort of want it to. I'm not 100% sure if you can see it on there, because of course there's a bit of a sheen from the wet wash, but I'm sure it'll look good once it's finished. Right, same again on the other side. Maybe just apply a little bit more water to it on here. So with very little recessing on this particular model, I'm more going to be using it just to kind of be painting a lot of the sort of detail on manually. So make sure it's in focus. I'm just going to dab this across the rest of the model now, starting from here onward. So as we can see, I've let the Agrax Earth Shade dry, and I've then applied a second coat to the main colours, allowing a little bit of I don't know, a mark in between, just so there's a bit of depth, a bit of change in the colours, not just sort of flat areas of camo. I've also once again a few very watered down coats of yellow over these areas and on the underneath as well, so that bit's all done. So next up we have the underneath we're going to do. So for the main colour, I'm going to be doing a sort of off-white, sort of a duck eggshell, and for that I'll be using Celestra Grey for the sort of the base coat to it. There'll be a little bit of highlighting, but in the areas where that would occur, but we'll go over that later. And we're going to be using a bit of Mechanica Standard Grey as a base for the bombs, and obviously black for the wheel at the back, and a little bit of what's it called? Let's just have a look. A little bit of lead belcher for the rear facing machine gun on the underneath. I'll also do the ones on the top with that, and then we're going to give all of that a wash with Nuln Oil, as that will be the sort of the best wash colour for that. Right, and so let's get started with a bit of Celestra Grey for a base coat, and then a coat after the wash. So I'm going to try and give this a little bit of a watering down, not too much, because obviously you know, I do need this to get some covering, and it's going to be difficult enough on the black undercoat. As I said, should have gone with the grey, but hey ho, what can you do now? Okay, so I made a start on that. Just try and do it sort of evenly. I'll probably do a couple of coats with this. Once again, it's not super important, because obviously I'm going to do another coat over it once the shade has dried, the normal oil has dried. Okay, that's the last layer of that on there. So just to recap, we've got Mechanica Standard Grey on the bombs, black on the wheel itself, lead belcher on the machine gun, and also the machine guns on the top, and then we got the Celestra white all over. What I'm now going to do is add a very light wash of Nuln Oil onto everything I just painted. And then we'll be looking at pretty much just going over everything with the original paint I used to base coat it. Okay, so I'm going to have some Nuln Oil. I'm going to add a little bit of water to that just to get it nice and ready, because I don't want this to be too thick. There you go. I'm just going to start along here, maybe a little more water on that. I'm just going to, just as the same with the previous, with the other side and with the Grax Earthshade, I'm just going to drag that across in the sort of direction the wind would be going. The air would be moving around the plane. Another benefit of this is that if I do get it on other areas, it's not going to show up too much. That's another benefit of watering it down. And once this is finished, I've already said, I will be adding a second layer of paint over the top. So just going to finish off this with a little bit of watered down Dawnstone for the highlights on that, and that's everything done with regards to the Nuln Oil wash and the second layer with all the paints. So now I'm going to be doing, well, depending on the time of day, my favourite or least favourite thing. I'm going to be breaking out the Artificer brush and doing the edge highlighting, and that includes the frames on the window itself. And for that, I'm going to just do a simple going over with Castellan Green, and then I'll be doing some edge highlighting around the engines in Uriel Yellow, if I pronounce that correctly, and then finally a little bit just around some of the white areas with Ulthuan Grey. Right, and so let's get cracking with the Artificer brush. Also, you want a good tip on this, which I appear to have at the moment. So just have a little bit out of here, straight from the pot, as I don't want to have to do too many coats of this, and just go over the areas where there is frame. So that'll be just here. Now regrettably, I may find myself going over this one or two times. Let's get a bit more of that on there and just brush it out. Get a nice tip. Make sure you can actually see what I'm doing. And there you go. Just going along these frames now. And then I'll move up and do the rest of them. Okay, so just applying the final little edge highlight along the end of the engine bit block here. And that is every bit of detail done on there now. So the cockpit frames, we've got it all around the engine, bit on the actual propeller area itself, tips the tail wings, just underneath, and these are the edged areas, just on the front. And that plane, painting wise, is now finished. And next up we'll have the transfers. To add decals to this, I'll be using these that I've picked up from Miscellaneous Miniatures, missminis.com, as can be seen on the sheet itself. I've basically picked, it's an American company. I've picked these up for around £5 including delivery. They came to me within, I think, 2 days, which was absolutely fantastic. I'll definitely be using them again, and the reason I went for these is because they just provide a little bit more detail and colour than the ones provided in the box itself. Okay, so now we're on to the final stage of this model. I've fixed it to the flying base. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this problem, but I couldn't quite get it in the hole that was intended for that purpose due to where the bombs were placed on it, so I've had to drill a little hole in each of mine and fix it in place with a pin. But yeah, I've done that. So now that that's there, it'll give me a good stable surface to do the final part, which is the decals. Now for decal fixing, I use, personally, I'm quite happy to use the Deckle Fix from Humbrol. Does a good job. Basically, I do a 50-50 mix, as you may be able to see here. 50-50 mix of Deckle Fix solution and water, and that is what I use for my decal fixing. It's yeah, it's good. Personally, I know it's been a bit hit and miss. Some people have said, but personally, I find it a good product. Certainly does a good job for me. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop that in there. Have a little away for a moment. Get the old brush on there, get it a bit nice and soaked, get it focus even, and then with a very old brush, and then we'll get that out momentarily once it starts to move. So as I said, Deckle Fix, yeah, it's a 50-50 mix of Deckle Fix and water, and that'll quickly start moving on there. Right, now these transfers, well, there you go, it's starting to move now. These transfers from Miss Minis, as good as they are, the one negative, I suppose I could say, is that they are a complete sheet. They're not separate transfers, so you will have to cut these out, and obviously that means that you have to be very precise with your cutting to make sure you don't get any sort of unwanted parts that could make it difficult to do. So I'll put one of these crosses on there first. Get that off. Bring it over here. It's working off my other models. I'll now place this just here towards the front of the wing. And there you go. Just move that around a little bit until I get it in place. Move back a little tiny bit, flatten out at the same time. Okay, let's move around a little bit. There you go. Let's move along that way. Whoop. On the camera. Move on that way. And back a little bit. I've got a little model I'm working on next to me where I've already applied this, so I'm just making sure I get that in the right spot so it matches the other models. I have a tiny little bit of tissue I keep to hand just to give some of the remaining liquid a little very gentle dab so I don't move that transfer, and that should very shortly set itself in place. So just got the rest of them to do now, and I should have quite a nice looking model. 3 nice looking models, should I say. Now to add the final decal before I'm calling this one done. Just on the underside of the plane now, I'm adding the E, because this plane is I suppose the Echo plane of the squadron. I don't know what they'd have actually designated it. Just lining this one up as best I can. A bit nearer. Up a little bit. And I think that works for me. So let's flatten that down a bit more. Then quick dab with the Andrex just to get the excess off. That should stop it slipping and sliding while it dries. And I'm calling that one done. And there you have it, completed Junkers Ju-88, complete with decals. See, the other reason is there you've got the that middle letter that denotes the plane. Also, the colour would match the the tips of the rotors. So there we have it. Completed plane. That's all my bombers done for Germany, and getting ready to get up to the clouds and have a little fly around over London. Alright then, so thank you very much to everybody for watching the video. Thank you everyone who's been recently liking and commenting on my previous videos. I hope to be back very soon with something. I have the Blenheims to do next. If anybody would like to see me do one of those, please let me know soon as, and I'll see about getting a video up. If not, I've got some Hurricanes on the way, so I'll be, I suppose, good look at them. I mean, it's pretty much going to cover, that pattern's going to pretty much cover every other plane the way I paint it. It's not like these ones that will have different schemes and patterns depending on the aircraft. Okay, so that's all from me on this one. This is a unfortunately discontinued by Warlord now. However, it's still out there available as the Zvezda box set. So if anyone gets their hands on that, the rules are out there. Possibly in previous videos I might put on there. Wink, wink. So yeah, I thoroughly persuaded anyone to have a go at this, because obviously, despite a bit of a lack of detail, it's a very nice little kit to paint, nice kit to work with, and yeah, that's it. No more to say on the subject. Thank you everyone very much. I've done some unboxing videos, a painting guide, so I suppose the one thing left to do will be a battle report. We'll see what happens. Thanks very much, and as always, please like, comment and subscribe, and please follow us on Twitter, and that will be @Warlord Games. Thank you, and goodbye.